Good morning. I'm Olivia Holaus for Boca Magazine, and we have a very special Facebook Live chat on this early Monday morning. We are joined by Mayor Douglas Hillman, who was elected to the office of Mayor Commissioner at the town of Highland Beach in March 2020. And Mr. Hillman's professional career has included the management of some of America's best known men's, women's, and children's apparel, accessory, and footwear brands, including London Fog, Levi's, Dockers, Burlington Hosiery, Keds, Pro Keds, and Sperry Topsiders. Mr. Hillman has served on several nonprofit and corporate boards and is currently president of both Dalton Place Condominium and Boca Highland Beach Club and Marina. That is quite a CV, Mayor Hillman. So nice to see you this morning.
Well, good morning, Olivia. How are you?
Good. I hope you're enjoying a cup of coffee as we chat. But today we are going to be talking about the Fire Rescue Department of Highland Beach. Please share with us the impetus behind this initiative.
Well, what had occurred over the years, and I say over the years because it dates back almost 30 years, that Highland Beach has had a relationship with Delray Beach. And Delray Beach had been servicing Highland Beach with fire rescue. And over the last few years, the costs have been escalating to a point that it just became financially infeasible. So when I took office, we got an estimate, if you will, of what the costs were going to be for the next fiscal year. And it represented better than 40% of the town's operating budget. So we said, it's just beyond what we thought the town, one, could afford, and beyond what we thought was just reasonable. So we contracted with an outside firm to take a look at, one, what the services were that we were getting as it related to the contract itself. Also, we wanted to look at what our alternatives were. And fortunately, when the survey came back, when the research was done, we found that we did have some alternatives. And one of the alternatives, in fact, the best one, was to do it ourselves, to actually create our own fire department. And not only could we provide enhanced services to the town, but we could do it at a reduced cost. And one of the reasons, or two of the reasons, were, first off, Delray had just finalized a new contract with their fire union that had significantly and was going to significantly increase their costs. And second, their pension costs over the years had not been funded properly. So they were faced with increased pension costs. When you put the two together, we were looking at escalating costs over the next several years because part of the contract where we were paying for the salaries of the fire department. We also found that half of the trips out of our fire department, our fire building, which we own, were going to Delray, not servicing Highland Beach. So when you look at what needed to be done, we found that we could actually deliver enhanced services to our town, and we could do it at lower costs. So the decision became very easy.
Right. And, how much do you expect to save the residents of Highland Beach with this new plan?
Once the plan is implemented, we will be able to save at a minimum of $2 million a year. That's a very significant savings to a small town like ours.
Right, absolutely. And, I see that your proposal has 2 fire trucks and 2 ambulances. I believe now you have one of each. Would this be of greater service at a lower cost for your community?
Well, 2 things. One, today when somebody dials 911 for an ambulance, the ambulance leaves the Highland Beach Fire Station and goes obviously to service the individual that got called. Unfortunately, Delray doesn't backfill with another ambulance. So the Highland Beach Fire Station is now sitting without an ambulance. If a second call comes in, that ambulance has to come from Delray, has to pass over, depending upon which station it is, has to pass over the bridge, has to pass over at least one railroad track, sometimes two railroad tracks. We will now have two ambulances. So there's no waiting. That actually occurs about 18% of the time when one is out and a second call is made. And it's very interesting that when an ambulance is called, if that ambulance has to go to the hospital, you don't want to be the person that makes that second call and has to wait for the ambulance to come from Delray. You have to remember that Highland Beach is only 3 miles long, and our station is right in the middle. So worst case scenario is that ambulance is sitting in the station 1.5 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
So having that second ambulance is critically important. Now, the second part of your question is, how can we do this at lower costs if we're going to have 2 more vehicles? Well, first of all, you generally don't buy these vehicles, you generally lease them. So we'll obviously be leasing them. We're not faced with the very high costs of their union contract. We're not faced with the catching up on their pension that they are. So we don't have those 2 added costs. We also don't have the added administrative costs they're adding on to our contract. And I should back up. The current contract we're under was originally negotiated some 27, 28 years ago. And at the time that it was negotiated, there were no other options. The only other option was to go with the county. And the people that were in charge in Highland Beach at the time when that contract was done, the county cost was almost double what the cost was with Delray. So Delray was clearly the one for them to go with, but they had no leverage in putting the contract together. So that's why it's a very one-sided contract. And then all the renewals that were done afterwards, again, they were renewing an existing contract with no leverage. Now that we've done this study and we understand that in fact there are other options, and again, unfortunately, the Delray Commission did not want to sit with us and look at negotiating a new contract. They just said, basically, here's the contract, take it or leave it. We wish they would have negotiated a new deal with us because it's a lot easier for us than it is building a whole new fire department. But they didn't want to sit down. So here we are.
Right. Here we are discussing this very important topic. So, if this plan does pass, how soon can you implement? What is your vision in terms of getting this moving and up and running?
Well, building a new fire department is not an easy task, obviously. Not only do you have to find the right personnel, get them organized, most of them would be coming from existing positions, so there's not a great deal of training to be done. Excuse me. But you have to have new protocols developed. You have to have licensing from the county and from the states, which we're already working on. We've already made those contacts. You have to have medical protocol in place for the EMS personnel. Fortunately, we already have our medical director in place who has been a medical director for 20 years at another facility, another fire department, and he will stay there as well. Ours is a small fire department in the scheme of things. But you have to find the right fire chief, you have to find the right captains, you have to put the whole organization together. Our current fire station houses 2 vehicles. Well, we have to expand that fire station to house 2 more vehicles. So there's a great deal of work to do. We're up to the task. We'll get that work done. We currently are a rather self-sufficient town. As small as we are, we have our own water department. We create our own fresh water. We have our own library. We have our own post office. We have our own police department. Really, the only thing we're missing is fire department. So we'll be able to handle it.
Right. And it will all be complete.
We'll be self-sustained.
Exactly. Well, residents will be voting on this issue on November 2nd. What is the best way for residents to reach out to you with any questions, comments, feedback?
All they have to do is go to our website. My email address is on there, but anybody that's watching right now, it's dhillman@highlandbeach.us. They can reach me very simply right there. But what they'll really be voting on is the seed money that it takes to get the department established. And that's essentially $10 million. That's what it's going to take to buy the 2 additional vehicles, to get all of the equipment that's necessary, and to expand the existing building. That 10 million, though, will be paid back in terms of the investment itself in 5 short years, because we'll be saving $2 million at least every year. So in 5 years or less, we'll get a savings of $5 million. I don't think there's any place where you can get 20% return on your money. If there is, tell me where it is, and I'll be the first to invest. Okay. But the reality is, we will finance that with today's very, very low interest rates, either through bank loans or through a small bond offering. But that's really what the vote is all about. That's allowing the town to make those commitments. And some of that are what we call soft costs, not just hard costs. Some of it is, for example, we have to hire our fire chief a year and a half, 2 years before we actually start the department, which isn't until May of 2024. Because that fire chief then has to hire his support staff. They then have to write all the job descriptions, all the appropriate protocols. They'll have to go out and hire the EMS operators, the drivers, the firefighters themselves. They'll have to supervise and work with the engineer to make sure that, and the architect, make sure that we're building the building to their requirements. You don't just go out and build a fire station.
Right.
Okay. So there's much to be done, but we'll do it. Not a problem.
Well, there's that saying, where there is a will, there is a way.
No question about it.
And you definitely have the will. Mayor Hillman, I always like to end conversations on a light note. So, my question to you is, what do you love about Highland Beach?
Well, there are many things, okay? Highland Beach is really very, very unique. It's unique in that we have only really one business, which is the hotel. There is a small real estate office in that hotel. But the fact that we're really a unique residential community, obviously we're all here because of the beach. We love our beach. But the people in Highland Beach are quite unique. It's a very friendly beach community where everybody's here to help one another. If you're walking down the sidewalk and somebody drops something by accident out of their pocket, the person behind them says, "You dropped something," they'll pick it up for you. It's not a go get 'em cosmopolitan community. It's a laid back, friendly, not quiet community, because our residents speak their mind, which we appreciate.
Mhm.
But I also like the fact that it's spotless here, that our police are on the scene constantly. It's very, very safe, and we're very proud of that. It's paradise. This is just a slice of paradise here.
You just took the words out of my mouth. I was going to finish it off with "it's paradise." So that's definitely a great way of rounding up our conversation.
I sit on my balcony every morning and have my coffee, and I'm just thankful that I'm here.
I know it. We are yes, very grateful to be here in beautiful South Florida, and we have definitely paradise. So thank you so much for your time. I know you are incredibly busy, and we really appreciate you taking the time to come and chat with us in regards to creating a new fire rescue department for the town of Highland Beach.
We're looking forward to getting this thing moving. We are deeply involved in it at this point, and it will be quite successful. And bottom line, it's going to deliver enhanced services for our community, and it's going to be at reduced costs. It's just a win-win.
Well, that's so great. Thank you so much again, Mayor Hillman. Great chatting with you. And thank you to our viewers for tuning in on this Monday morning. On behalf of everyone at Boca Magazine, we wish you a wonderful week.
Nice talking with you, Olivia.
Nice
Bye-bye.
talking with you. Bye.